This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Phil Laskowski coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for Thursday, April 9th. Taiwan Premier pledges tougher penalties, crypto regulations to combat fraud. U.S. Senator Jim Banks meets with Taiwan President Lai to reaffirm U.S. support. And Chinese men denied entry after posting Taiwan, China on Xiaohongshu. But first, today's top story. Premier Zhou Rongtai outlined a three-pronged approach on Wednesday to combat the rising threat of fraud and virtual asset crimes, heavier penalties, faster interception, and stronger victim protection. Chairing a national security briefing, Zhou stressed using cross-ministerial cooperation and advanced technology to tackle evolving scams. Despite Taiwan's strongest safety record, authorities are escalating crackdowns on organized crime. A recent nationwide sweep dismantled 58 criminal rings, apprehended 285 suspects, and seized over $1.9 million in illicit funds. Premier Zhou urged law enforcement to leverage big data against criminal syndicates and highlighted the recent implementation of the revised Anti-Fraud Act, also known as the Fraud Crime Hazard Prevention Act. The government is also addressing emerging threats like psilocybin, recently classified as level 2 narcotic. With virtual currencies increasingly driving fraud losses, the Financial Supervisory Commission is accelerating regulations to identify fraudulent crypto wallets and trace illicit financial flows, particularly those involving Tether. While over $314 million in fraudulent assets have been frozen, the complex investigation has delayed restitution. The Justice Ministry is collaborating with crypto platforms to expedite the return of these funds. Additionally, the Cabinet recently advanced the draft of the Virtual Asset Service Act, known as Draft Act, to establish regulatory frameworks, protect investors, and dismantle fraud networks. United States Senator Jim Banks is leading a delegation to Taiwan and met with President Lai Ching-te this Wednesday. Banks said the main objective of this trip is to reaffirm that the U.S. stood with Taiwan in the past and will continue to do so in the future. Lai thanked Banks for the letter he and 37 bipartisan senators and representatives sent in February that jointly expressed concerns about Taiwan's special defense budget. The letter underscored China's threats towards Taiwan and expressed support for Taiwan's enhanced defense capabilities. The president said he believes this letter conveys that Taiwan is not alone in facing authoritarian expansion and regional security challenges. While Taiwan has the support of like-minded partners, Lai said, it must demonstrate its determination to safeguard the nation, maintain stability in the Taiwan Strait, and ensure peace in the Indo-Pacific. Lai said, 30 years ago, facing a missile threat from China, the Taiwanese people did not back down. Instead, they resolutely cast their votes. 30 years later, Taiwan should continue to uphold democratic and free values and safeguard its hard-won democratic prosperity. Taiwan will not forget the actions taken by the United States to safeguard regional peace and stability during the Taiwan Strait crisis 30 years ago, Lai said. Interior Minister Liu Shifang released a statement this Thursday regarding the National Immigration Agency and the Cabinet denying a Chinese man entry into Taiwan after calling it Taiwan, China online. The man, surnamed Liang, had previously visited Taiwan and shared videos of his trip on the social networking platform Xiaohongshu. Liang referred to his location as Taiwan, China, and included the Chinese flag. The National Immigration Agency said it received a public complaint last year about the video. Citing previous actions violating equality and dignity, the National Immigration Agency restricted Liang from visiting Taiwan on a tourist visa for 2 years. Liang claimed that this restricted his freedom of speech and filed an appeal. The appeal was rejected by the Cabinet this March. Interior Minister Liu spoke at the legislature this Thursday regarding the matter. Minister Liu disclosed that everything was done in accordance with the law and emphasized that anyone who set foot on Taiwanese soil must abide by Taiwan's laws. The Interior Minister said,
Any foreign person who applies to come to Taiwan must abide by Taiwan's laws and regulations, whether it's an administrative appeal or a re-entry ban imposed by the immigration agency. We urge those coming to Taiwan to act in accordance with Taiwanese law.
In Pingdong's waters, fishermen hauled in the county's first bluefin tuna of the year.
With harpoons and hooks at the ready, fishermen battled with and eventually hauled the massive catch aboard with all their strength. It was a bluefin tuna, Pingdong's first of 2026. Firecrackers were set off in celebration as the fishing boat slowly carried the star of the show into the harbour, and the crane lifted it onto shore. So just how big was this first tuna of the year? At 214 centimetres long, it weighed in at 190 kilograms. After weighing, it was loaded onto a truck and rolled to the auction block. Pingdong's first bluefin tuna went under the hammer on Wednesday morning at an auction in Donggang. Bidding was fierce through multiple rounds, with the 190-kilogram bluefin tuna ultimately selling for 10,600 Taiwanese dollars or $333 per kilogram. The catcher was a Ryukyu registered fishing vessel, and its captain, with 50 years of experience at sea, nabbed the first tuna of his career. He said, "It just happened by accident for me. I was so excited that I couldn't sleep." The winning bidders were a famed Donggang seafood restaurant and a food company from Penghu, splitting the 2,014,000 Taiwanese dollar, approximately $63,000 total. Winning restaurant owner Xiao Shoufa said, "This year marks the 12th time that I've bought the first tuna." At 10,600 Taiwanese dollars per kilogram, Pingdong's first tuna of 2026 set a near-decade high, boosting its prestige once more. Eloise Phillips for RTI News.
Taiwan's Social Welfare and Environmental Hygiene Committee on Thursday invited Labor Minister Hong Shunhan for a briefing and questioning on the prevention of forced labor and fair recruitment. With increasingly stringent international supply chain human rights standards, lawmakers from both major parties focus on migrant workers' debt issues. Hong promised to propose a review plan for the direct hiring process within 3 months. KMT lawmaker Wan Yumin noted that the U.S. has launched Section 301 under the Trade Act of 1974, an investigation against forced labor, and the EU will ban forced labor products in 2027. Therefore, without improvements, Taiwan risks impacting its export market. Survey shows over 60% of migrant workers borrow money for agency fees, making debt bondage labor a core forced labor issue. Hong responded that the government has reviewed the laws and amendments to the document withholding provisions of the Employment Services Act are on the cabinet's agenda. Per U.S. commitments, banning recruitment fees for migrant workers will advance within 3 years.
We are still deliberating the evaluation content, which the National Development Council is closely reviewing, but we hope to move quickly so evaluations can distinguish fair recruitment effectively. We hope to handle it this year at least and roll it out next year.
Hong responded when pushed for a timeline by Wang. Wang highlighted poor direct hiring uptake. Under 3% of firms use it due to cumbersome processes and inefficient service points, driving reliance on agencies. DPP lawmaker Lin Shufen said employers chose agencies for efficiency and not out of laziness, citing South Korea's mature cross-border hiring system and suggesting the government should actively learn from it to gradually increase the proportion of such agencies, stating that the nation must take responsibility. Hong is committed to reforms via more outlets, streamlined processes, and enhanced government matching, with a review report in 3 months and process improvements by year-end. Taiwan's foreign ministry announced on Thursday that a Canadian Senate delegation is visiting Taipei to focus on countering foreign information manipulation and deepening bilateral ties. Deputy Foreign Minister Chen Ming-chi received the delegation led by Senator Leo Hosakos on Wednesday. Thanking Canada for its steadfast support, Chen noted that since the 2022 Indo-Pacific Strategy launch, Ottawa has expanded cooperation with Taiwan in health, trade, technology, and combating information. The two economies are highly complementary, he said, creating opportunities for future collaboration in semiconductors, artificial intelligence, communications resilience, and energy security. Hosakos, the opposition leader in the Canadian Senate, highlighted that Taiwan and Canada share core democratic and human rights values. Noting that this is the first visit for the most delegation members, Hosakos said they hope to gain a deeper understanding of Taiwan's soft power, trade diversification, public health system, indigenous rights protection, and efforts to counter disinformation. Taiwan is Canada's second largest investment partner and sixth largest trading partner in the Asia-Pacific region. The ministry emphasized that Canada continues taking concrete actions to maintain peace in the Taiwan Strait. Both sides will keep strengthening ties to ensure regional stability and prosperity. Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Phil. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.